The massive alien ship appeared above Earth without warning on a Tuesday morning. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The vessel stretched for miles across the sky, its silver surface catching sunlight and throwing it back in rainbow patterns. Strange symbols glowed along its hull in colors humans had no names for. Every television, radio, and internet connection on Earth suddenly showed the same image. A tall, thin creature with blue-green skin and 4 arms stood in what looked like a grand throne room. Its large black eyes seemed to look directly at each person watching. Behind it stood other aliens of different shapes and sizes, all wearing elaborate robes that sparkled with their own light. "Greetings, people of Earth," the creature said. Its voice was smooth and pleasant, like a teacher speaking to young children. "I am Ambassador Zekthar of the Vellani Empire, speaking for the Galactic Confederation. We come in peace and friendship to welcome your world into the greater community of civilized species." President Martinez sat in the White House Situation Room, surrounded by military advisors and scientists. Every world leader was watching the same broadcast from their own emergency centers. The message was being translated into every human language simultaneously, which should have been impossible. Ambassador Zekthar continued speaking. "Your species has reached a milestone. You have achieved basic space travel and primitive communication systems. This makes you eligible for protection under the Confederation Charter. We have been watching your progress with great interest and, if we may say so, considerable amusement." The alien paused, and something that might have been a smile crossed its face. "Humans are quite remarkable in their own way. Your chaotic nature, your endless conflicts, your stubborn refusal to accept obvious truths, these traits are rare among thinking species. Most civilizations outgrow such behaviors long before they reach the stars." Dr. Sarah Chen, sitting at the president's right, felt her jaw clench. She had spent her entire career studying the possibility of alien life. In all her theories, she had never imagined first contact would feel so much like being patted on the head. "The galaxy is a dangerous place," Zekthar explained. "There are pirates who raid peaceful worlds, ancient artificial intelligences that view all biological life as a virus to be eliminated. Worst of all, there are the Devourers, creatures so terrible that even we do not speak of them except in whispers." The camera pulled back to show the full throne room. Dozens of alien species stood in perfect formation, their posture radiating confidence and power. Each one looked like they could conquer Earth without breaking whatever they used for sweat. "This is why the Confederation exists," the ambassador said. "We protect younger species until they can protect themselves. We guide their development. We prevent them from making the terrible mistakes that destroy civilizations." General Harrison leaned forward in his chair. "Here it comes," he muttered. "Our offer is generous beyond measure," Zekthar announced. "We will place Earth under Confederation protection immediately. Our fleet will guard your world from all threats. Our scientists will share knowledge to advance your technology by thousands of years. Our teachers will help your species mature beyond its current primitive state." The alien spread all 4 arms wide. "In return, we ask only for reasonable cooperation. Earth must surrender all military weapons as they serve no purpose under our protection. Your leaders will consult with Confederation advisors before making important decisions. And Earth will contribute 30% of its resources to support the fleet that guards you." President Martinez looked around the room. Some faces showed excitement at the promise of advanced technology. Others showed anger at what sounded like demands for surrender. The president herself felt something else entirely: suspicion. "You have 30 of your days to consider our offer," Zekthar said. "We understand that primitive species often need time to overcome their fear of change. When you accept, as all reasonable species do, the galaxy will welcome Earth as its newest protected world." The broadcast ended. For a moment, the Situation Room was completely silent. 30% of our resources? General Harrison was the first to speak. That's not protection money, that's tribute. The technology they're offering could solve climate change, end hunger, cure diseases, said Dr. Reeves from the Science Advisory Board. Maybe the cost is worth it. The cost is our freedom, President Martinez said quietly. They're not offering protection. They're offering subjugation with better words. Dr. Chen was staring at her tablet, reviewing the alien transmission. Something's wrong with this whole thing, she said. Look at the technical requirements for what they just did. They hijacked every communication system on Earth simultaneously. They translated their message into every human language in real time. That level of technology is so far beyond us that they could have conquered Earth before we even knew they were here. So why the diplomatic show? Asked the president. Maybe they're actually peaceful, suggested Dr. Reeves. General Harrison snorted. Or maybe they're just polite conquerors. Dr. Chen shook her head. No, there's something else. If they're this advanced, why do they need 30% of Earth's resources? A civilization that can cross interstellar space should have access to more raw materials than they could use in 1,000,000 years. Unless, the president said slowly, they're not as strong as they want us to think. 6,000 miles away, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Director Walsh received the same transmission everyone else had seen. But she also received something else, a coded message that had been hidden in the alien broadcast's quantum signature. The message was simple. Phase 3 is authorized. Accelerate the timeline. Walsh walked through corridors carved from solid rock, deep beneath the Colorado mountains. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock in vast chambers filled with technology that would have seemed like magic to most humans. At the center of it all, displayed on screens the size of buildings, was the reason humanity had been preparing for this day. The Watchers, humanity's most secret project, had been monitoring deep space for 40 years. They had detected the Confederation fleet months ago. They had recorded every alien transmission, decoded their languages, and learned their history. Most importantly, they had discovered what the Confederation was really afraid of. How long until the ship is ready? Walsh asked her chief engineer. 72 hours, came the reply. We're installing the final quantum resonance chambers now. Good. The aliens gave us 30 days to decide. We'll give them our answer much sooner than that. Back in the White House, President Martinez was addressing the nation. The world was watching as she stood behind the presidential podium, looking directly into the camera. My fellow Americans and citizens of Earth, she began. Today we received an offer from beings who claim to represent a galactic civilization. They promise protection in exchange for what amounts to our surrender. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. Throughout history, those who offer protection in exchange for freedom are rarely protectors. They are conquerors who prefer cooperation to conquest, but conquest nonetheless. Today, as we have so many times before, humanity faces a choice between freedom and safety. The president's voice grew stronger. We choose freedom. We choose to stand on our own, to face whatever challenges await us, to remain masters of our own destiny. If these visitors truly come in peace, they will respect our decision. If they do not, she smiled, and something in that smile would have worried Ambassador Zekthar if he had been watching. If they do not, they will learn why humanity has survived every challenge we have ever faced. We do not go gentle into anyone's good night. In orbit above Earth, the Confederation fleet received the transmission. Ambassador Zekthar watched the human leader's speech with growing disbelief. In 5,000 years of Confederation expansion, no species had ever refused their protection. Prepare. A response fleet, he ordered. These humans will learn to be reasonable one way or another. 3 days after President Martinez's speech, Every Confederation ship in Earth's solar system received the same message at exactly the same moment. This should have been impossible. The alien vessels were scattered across millions of miles of space using different communication systems and quantum encryption that no primitive species should understand. The message was simple and appeared in perfect galactic standard. Thank you for your offer. We respectfully decline. Ambassador Zekthar stared at his communication panel in confusion. His technical officers were running diagnostics, trying to understand how humans had penetrated their secured networks. Every test came back the same way. Impossible. But it had happened. Sir? His communications officer said, all four of its eyes wide with alarm. The transmission didn't come from Earth. What do you mean? The quantum signature shows it originated from the asteroid belt approximately 2.3 astronomical units from Earth. But sir, our deep scans of that region showed only primitive mining operations. Zekthar felt the first stirring of unease. In his 1,000 years of diplomatic service, he had contacted over 200 primitive species. None had ever surprised him. Send a response, he ordered. Tell them I wish to speak with their leaders, personally. Perhaps we can reach a better understanding. The reply came within minutes. Ambassador Zekthar, you are invited to observe humanity's current industrial capabilities. Coordinates are attached. We believe this will clarify our position. The coordinates pointed to a location in the asteroid belt. Zekthar's science officer, a brilliant crystalline named Vorth, was already analyzing the area with their most powerful sensors. Ambassador, I'm detecting massive energy signatures from that location. The readings are unusual. Define unusual. Vorth's crystalline body flickered with nervous light patterns. The power output is comparable to a small star. But that's not the concerning part. I'm also detecting quantum field fluctuations that don't match any known technology in our databases. Could it be a weapon? Sir, if these readings are accurate, we're looking at something that could theoretically destabilize local space-time. But a species this primitive couldn't possibly... Vorth stopped speaking as his instruments registered something new. Ambassador, you need to see this. The main display showed the asteroid belt. For weeks, their sensors had detected what appeared to be a large mining operation. Metal frameworks, construction equipment, and ore processing facilities scattered among the rocks. It looked exactly like the industrial efforts of a species that had just reached their own solar system. But now the frameworks were moving. The massive structures weren't mining equipment at all. They were construction scaffolding, and they were retracting. As the metal supports pulled away, they revealed something that made every Confederation officer on the bridge freeze in stunned silence. It was a ship. But calling it a ship was like calling a hurricane a breeze. The vessel was nearly 3 kilometers long, shaped like an elongated diamond that seemed to bend light around its edges. Its hull wasn't made of any material in Confederation databases. It appeared to be constructed from crystallized space itself, dark and reflective like frozen starlight. But the size wasn't what made Zekthar's skin turn pale. It was what his instruments were telling him about the energy contained within that impossible hull. Vorth, run the scan again. These readings must be wrong. The crystalline's light patterns shifted to deep crimson. I've run it 12 times, sir. The results are consistent. That vessel is generating enough power to crack a moon. And the quantum signatures suggest technology at least 5,000 years beyond our most advanced systems. As they watched, massive sections of the human ship began to glow with soft blue light. Text appeared along the hull in letters large enough to read from millions of miles away. The words were in human script, but the translation systems immediately converted them. UES Terran Resolve. Sir, the communications officer said quietly, we're receiving another transmission from the human vessel. A new face appeared on the screen. This was clearly a human, shorter than Zekthar, with dark skin and graying hair pulled back severely. She wore a simple blue uniform with no decorations except for 5 small stars on her collar. "Ambassador Zekthar," the human said. "I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earthship Terran Resolve. I understand you wish to speak with our leaders about your protection offer." Zekthar tried to project calm authority, but his voice came out higher than usual. "Captain Vasquez, I must admit surprise at your technological capabilities. Perhaps we underestimated humanity's development." The human's expression didn't change. "Perhaps you did. Let me clarify our position for you, Ambassador. 43. Years ago, we detected artificial signals from your region of space. We have been monitoring Confederation communications ever since." The alien's 4 arms began to tremble slightly. "You've been monitoring us? We know about your expansion, policies, your protection taxes, and your standard procedure for newly contacted species. We also know about the threats you face, the rogue AIs, the pirates, and especially the Devourers." Captain Vasquez leaned forward slightly. "What you don't seem to understand is that we've been preparing for all of those threats, including you." "Including us?" Zekthar's voice was barely a whisper. "Ambassador, you represent a civilization that demands submission in exchange for protection. In human history, we have a name for such arrangements. We call them protection rackets, and we have extensive experience dealing with them." The human captain touched something off-screen, and new information appeared on Zekthar's displays. It showed detailed technical specifications of Confederation ships, power systems, weapons, shielding, everything. Information that should have been classified at the highest levels. "We know exactly how your technology works," Captain Vasquez continued. "Your antimatter containment systems, your plasma cannon arrays, your faster-than-light drives. We've had decades to study and understand them." Zekthar looked at the impossible data streaming across his screens. How did you obtain this information?" "The same way we're talking to you now. The same way we sent our message to every ship in your fleet simultaneously. Ambassador, your quantum encryption might be unbreakable by Confederation standards, but you're not dealing with the Confederation anymore." For the first time in his long diplomatic career, Zekthar felt genuine fear. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that your offer of protection is unnecessary. We can protect ourselves. More than that, we choose to protect ourselves. Humanity has never accepted subjugation willingly, and we're not about to start now." The alien ambassador tried to regain control of the conversation. "Captain, you may have impressive technology, but you don't understand the scale of galactic threats. The Devourers alone could destroy your entire solar system." Captain Vasquez smiled for the first time during the conversation. It was not a pleasant expression. "Ambassador, we built the Terran Resolve specifically to deal with the Devourers. Your Confederation's policy of running away from them is understandable, but not our approach. You can't seriously believe you could fight creatures that have destroyed entire star systems." "We don't believe it, Ambassador. We know it. The question now is what happens next." Zekthar felt his world shifting beneath him. Everything the Confederation understood about primitive species was proving wrong. "What do you mean?" "You came here offering protection in exchange for our submission. We're declining that offer. The question is whether you'll accept our decision peacefully or whether you'll try to force the issue." The captain's expression grew serious. "I hope you choose peace, Ambassador, because if you choose force, you'll discover that humans respond very poorly to threats." Before Zekthar could respond, the transmission ended. The Terran Resolve hung in space like a dark star, its impossible bulk casting shadows across the asteroid field. "Sir," Vorth said quietly, "what are your orders?" Zekthar stared at the human ship, his mind racing. In 5,000 years, the Confederation had never encountered resistance like this. Species either accepted protection willingly, or were forced to accept it. There was no third option. "Contact the defense fleet," he said finally. Request Admiral Kexmoor's immediate deployment. Full subjugation force. Sir, are you certain? If the humans' technological claims are accurate... Vorth. They're bluffing. They have to be. No species develops this rapidly. Whatever they're showing us, it's an elaborate deception using captured or stolen technology. But even as he gave the orders, Zekthar couldn't shake the image of Captain Vasquez's smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret. A terrible, wonderful secret that the Confederation was about to discover the hard way. In the depths of the Terran resolve, Captain Vasquez reviewed the conversation with her senior staff. "Think he bought the bluff?" asked Commander Torres. "What? Bluff?" Vasquez replied. "Everything we told him was true. Even the part about being ready for the Devourers?" The captain looked at the tactical displays showing the ship's full capabilities. Weapons that could rewrite matter at the quantum level. Defenses that could fold space itself. A power source that drew energy directly from the cosmic background radiation. "Especially that part," she said. "Now let's see if they're smart enough to walk away." The Confederation Emergency Council convened within hours of Ambassador Zekthar's report. Representatives from 57 species gathered in the Great Chamber on the capital world of Nexus Prime. The mood was tense and confused. In 5,000 years of expansion, nothing like this had ever happened. High Chancellor Mordeth, an ancient being whose species had founded the Confederation, listened to Zekthar's report with growing disbelief. The ambassador had transmitted all sensor data from the encounter, but the readings made no sense. "You're telling us," Mordeth said slowly, "that a species that has barely left its homeworld has constructed a vessel with power output exceeding our dreadnoughts?" "The sensor readings are clear, High Chancellor. I've verified them multiple times." Councillor Vexta, representing the warrior species known as the Corvani, slammed a massive fist on the council table. "Impossible! These humans are using some kind of holographic deception. Primitive species don't develop quantum manipulation technology." "The quantum signatures were real," Zekthar insisted, "and they demonstrated capabilities that shouldn't exist. They penetrated our secured communications, accessed classified technical data, and—" "Enough," Mordeth interrupted. "There's a simple explanation for all of this. The humans found a derelict vessel, some ancient ship from an extinct civilization. They've learned to operate it. But they don't truly understand the technology." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. This made sense. Young species occasionally discovered artifacts from the galaxy's distant past. The Confederation had protocols for dealing with such situations. "It's a bluff," declared Admiral Kexmoor, the Confederation's supreme military commander. "They're hoping we'll be intimidated by their light show and leave them alone. Meanwhile, they're probably trying desperately to figure out how their stolen technology actually works." The Admiral stood, his scarred face grim with determination. Kexmoor had personally conquered 17 star systems in the name of Confederation protection. His flagship, the Eternal Victory, was the most powerful warship ever built. "High Chancellor, request permission to deploy the subjugation fleet. Standard force should be more than adequate to deal with these humans and their ancient toy." Mordeth considered carefully. "What if you're wrong? What if their capabilities are genuine? Then we'll adapt our tactics accordingly." "But sir, I've faced every threat in this galaxy. I've destroyed rogue AI fleets and driven off Devourer scouts. I know the difference between real power and an impressive bluff." The vote was unanimous. Admiral Kexmoor would take a standard subjugation, force to Earth. 12 heavy cruisers, 40 frigates, and 2 dreadnoughts. Enough firepower to reduce a planet to molten rock. "One more thing," Mordeth added. "If the humans truly have found an ancient artifact, we want it intact. Their defiance cannot be allowed to stand, but that technology could advance Confederation science by centuries." Admiral Kexmoor smiled. "Understood, sir. I'll be sure to salvage their toy after they surrender." The fleet arrived at Earth's solar system 3 days later. Kexmore had chosen his force carefully. The two dreadnoughts alone massed more than most planets. Their quantum cannons could crack a moon in half. The sight of them emerging from faster-than-light travel should have sent any reasonable species running for cover. Instead, the humans were waiting. The Terran Resolve had positioned itself between the Confederation fleet and Earth's moon. Yaochu, close. The human ship looked even more impossible. Its hull seemed to absorb light, making it appear as a hole cut out of space itself. No electromagnetic radiation escaped its surface, which should have meant the ship was completely cold. Instead, Kexmore's sensors detected temperatures approaching absolute zero in some areas and stellar fusion levels in others. "Admiral," his science officer reported, "the human vessel is violating at least 12 known laws of physics." "Elaborate." "Sir, it appears to be selectively controlling which physical laws apply to different parts of its structure. The bow section is operating under normal space-time. The stern section seems to exist in a pocket of accelerated time. The center section, I'm not sure what's happening there, but my instruments insist it's somehow larger inside than outside." Kexmore studied. The impossible readings. "Sensor malfunction. Has to be. Run full diagnostics." "Sir, I've run diagnostics 6 times. All systems are functioning normally. The human ship is simply doing things that shouldn't be possible." Before the Admiral could respond, a transmission arrived from the Terran Resolve. Captain Vasquez appeared on his screen, looking calm and professional in her simple blue uniform. "Admiral Kexmore," she said, "I assume you're here because our diplomatic solution wasn't satisfactory to your government." "Captain Vasquez," Kexmore replied, projecting confidence he didn't entirely feel. "I'm here to give you one final chance to accept Confederation protection. Surrender immediately, and your species will be treated with the respect due to new members of our community. And if we refuse, then you'll face the consequences of defying the most powerful military force in the galaxy." Captain Vasquez was quiet for a moment, studying something off-screen. "Admiral, before we proceed, I want to make sure you understand something. Your fleet represents the pinnacle of Confederation military technology. 40,000 years of weapons development, the combined knowledge of dozens of species, powered by the industrial output of 100 worlds. That's correct. And you believe this gives you the right to demand our submission. I believe this gives me the power to ensure galactic stability." The human captain nodded slowly. "I see. Admiral, you have exactly 1 minute to reverse course and leave this system. This is your only warning." Kexmore's laugh echoed across the bridge. His crew joined in. The idea that a single primitive ship could threaten their armada was absurd. "Captain, you're facing 2 dreadnoughts that could vaporize your entire planet. Each of my heavy cruisers has enough firepower to level a continent. Surrender now, or watch your world burn." 57 seconds, Admiral." "Target their ship," Kexmore ordered. "All forward weapons. Full spread." 38 seconds. "Fire." The Confederation fleet unleashed destruction that could have sterilized. A star system, plasma cannons that burned at 10 million degrees, antimatter torpedoes carrying enough energy to crack tectonic plates, quantum disruptors that could unravel molecular bonds. Everything struck the Terran Resolve at exactly the same moment, and simply vanished, not deflected by shields, not absorbed by armor. The weapons fire approached the human ship and ceased to exist, as if reality had edited out the attack. "What just happened?" Kexmore demanded. "Sir, our weapons are gone. Not destroyed, gone, as if they never existed. Fire again." The second salvo met the same fate. Weapons that could destroy worlds disappeared without a trace when they touched the human vessel. "Time's up, Admiral," Captain Vasquez said calmly. The Terran Resolve responded. What followed wasn't combat. It was a demonstration of technological superiority so absolute that it redefined what the Confederation thought possible. The human ship didn't fire weapons in any sense that Kexmore understood. It didn't launch projectiles or emit energy beams. Instead, Confederation ships simply stopped working. The heavy cruiser Victorious was the first to go. One moment it was, a fully functional warship capable of faster-than-light travel. The next moment, every system aboard simply turned off. Not damaged, not destroyed, converted into inert matter. The hull remained intact, the crew unharmed, but the ship had become nothing more than an elaborate metal sculpture drifting in space. "Sir," his weapons officer called out, "the Victorious isn't responding to any signals." "What's their status?" "According to our scans, they're fine, but their ship has been deactivated. Every technological system aboard has been converted to ordinary matter." As Kexmoor watched in growing horror, the same effect spread to other ships. The Relentless, the Iron Hand, the Stellar Fury. One by one, his fleet was being systematically neutralized. Not destroyed, just turned off. "How are they doing this?" he whispered. His science officer's voice was barely audible. "Sir, I believe they're rewriting matter at the quantum level, somehow changing the fundamental properties of our ship's components, making advanced technology become ordinary metal and plastic." "That's impossible." "So was everything else about their ship, sir. Kexmoor watched 12 of his finest vessels become powerless hulks in as many seconds. The human ship hadn't even moved. It simply existed, and Confederation technology stopped, functioning in its presence. "Admiral," Captain Vasquez's voice returned, "your crews are unharmed, and we're transmitting evacuation coordinates. Our rescue ships will collect your people within the hour. Your vessels, however, will remain here." As a reminder, in desperation, Kexmoor reached for his final option. The Eternal Victory's planetary bombardment system, a weapon capable of cracking worlds powered by the ship's entire reactor output. Before his hand touched the firing control, his personal console lit up with an incoming data transmission. Detailed schematics of his own flagship appeared on the screen. Every bolt, every circuit, every component was displayed in perfect detail. Then, one by one, each part was highlighted in sequence. The message was unmistakable. "We know exactly how everything you..." News of Admiral Kexmoor's defeat spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. The impossible had happened. A primitive species had not only refused Confederation protection, but had utterly destroyed the most powerful fleet in known space, without firing a single conventional weapon. On Nexus Prime, the Emergency Council met in permanent session. Reports flooded in from across Confederation space as panic took hold. If humans could neutralize their most advanced warships, what else were they capable of? High Chancellor Mordeth stared at the tactical recordings for the 100th time. Watching Confederation vessels simply stop functioning defied everything they understood about technology and physics. "It has to be some kind of quantum virus," insisted Chief Science Advisor Wellcom. "They've found a way to transmit information that rewrites matter at the subatomic level." "If that's true," Mordeth replied grimly, "then no Confederation technology is safe. They could disable our entire civilization from across the galaxy." Ambassador Zekthar, who had remained silent during most of the emergency sessions, finally spoke up. "High Chancellor, I request permission to return to Earth. We need to understand what we're dealing with." "Absolutely not. We're not risking..." "Another diplomatic vessel. Sir, with respect, we're not at war." The humans could have destroyed Admiral Kexmoor's entire fleet, but they chose to disable it instead. They rescued our crews and treated them well. This suggests they might still be willing to negotiate. Mordeth considered this. In truth, the Confederation had few options. Their military advantage had evaporated in a matter of minutes. If the humans truly possessed technology that could disable any Confederation ship at will, then traditional solutions were useless. Very well. But this time, you go alone. A single ship, minimal crew, and you approach them as an equal, not a superior. Meanwhile, in Earth's solar system, something unprecedented was happening. The wreckage of Admiral Kexmoor's fleet hung in space like monuments to human technological superiority. But rather than destroying the disabled vessels, humanity had begun the galaxy's strangest salvage operation. Captain Elena Vasquez stood in the observation deck of the Terran Resolve, watching human engineering teams work alongside rescued Confederation crews to restore basic life support to the disabled ships. "Captain," her first officer Commander Torres said, "the Confederation crews are asking why we're helping repair their vessels." "What did you tell them?" "That humans don't like to see people suffer, even former enemies." Vasquez nodded. "That's accurate. Any word from Earth about Ambassador Zekthar's request?" "President Martinez approved the meeting. The ambassador will be received aboard the Terran Resolve in 6 hours." When Zekthar's diplomatic vessel approached the human ship, he was struck again by its impossible nature. The Terran Resolve seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, its surface rippling with patterns that hurt to look at directly. The ambassador was transported aboard by a method he couldn't identify. One moment he was in his shuttle's airlock, the next he was standing in what appeared to be a perfectly normal conference room. Human artwork hung on the walls, paintings of landscapes from Earth, photographs of human achievements, and strangely, images of other alien species the ambassador recognized. Captain Vasquez entered the room carrying a tray with 2 cups of steaming liquid. She wore the same simple blue uniform as before. But now the ambassador noticed small details he had missed. The fabric seemed to shimmer with embedded technology, and the 5 stars on her collar weren't metal but tiny points of actual starlight. "Ambassador Zekthar," she said, setting 1 cup in front of him. "Thank you for coming. I hope you don't mind coffee. It's something of a human tradition when having important conversations." The alien accepted the cup, noting that the liquid was somehow perfectly suited to his species' biochemistry, despite having been prepared by humans. "Captain, I must ask, how did you know the exact chemical composition that would be safe for my physiology? We've been monitoring Confederation communications for decades, remember? Your medical databases were quite thorough." Zekthar felt another chill at the casual way she mentioned penetrating their most secure systems. "Captain, I'm here because my government needs to understand what happened to our fleet. Our science advisors insist that what you did was physically impossible." "Your science advisors are working with incomplete information," Vasquez replied. "Tell me, Ambassador, what do you know about quantum consciousness?" "I'm not familiar with that term." "The theory that consciousness itself affects reality at the quantum level. Most species discover it eventually, but they usually dismiss it as philosophical speculation rather than practical science." The captain touched a control on the table, and a 3-dimensional display appeared in the air between them. It showed the structure of atoms, but with something extra: tiny threads of energy connecting every particle to every other particle across vast distances. "Every thinking mind creates quantum entanglements with the universe around it," Vasquez explained. "Usually these effects are too small to measure, but when you focus enough conscious minds on a single purpose, using the right technology as an amplifier, you can alter reality itself," Zekthar whispered, understanding dawning. "Exactly. The Terran Resolve isn't just a ship, Ambassador. It's a quantum consciousness amplifier powered by the collective will of humanity. When we decided that your weapons shouldn't exist, they stopped existing. When we decided that your ships should be harmless, they became harmless." That's impossible. Consciousness can't affect physical matter." "Can it? Tell me, how does your brain control your body? How does a thought become a physical action? Consciousness has always affected matter. We just figured out how to scale it up." Zekthar set down his coffee cup with trembling hands. "You're saying that human willpower alone disabled our fleet? Human willpower focused through 40 years of quantum research and technology specifically designed to amplify consciousness. effects. It's not magic, Ambassador. It's just science that your civilization hasn't discovered yet. But the power requirements alone are provided by 6 billion human minds working in harmony. Every person on Earth is connected to the Terran resolve through quantum entanglement. When humanity decides something together, reality tends to agree with us. The ambassador tried to process this information. 6 billion minds? How do you coordinate that many consciousness at once? For the first time, Captain Vasquez smiled with genuine warmth. Democracy, Ambassador. We vote. When humanity reaches consensus on something, the quantum field responds accordingly. You democratically voted to disable our weapons? We democratically voted to defend ourselves against subjugation. The specific method was left to the ship's crew to determine. Zekthar leaned back in his chair, overwhelmed. This changes everything. If consciousness can be weaponized... Weaponized is the wrong word, Vasquez interrupted. We prefer to think of it as consciousness being applied constructively. We didn't destroy your ships, Ambassador. We just convinced the universe that they should stop being weapons and start being opportunities for cooperation. What do you mean? The captain touched another control, and the display changed to show technical specifications that made Zekthar's eyes widen. We've been studying your disabled vessels. Fascinating technology, really. With a few modifications, they could be converted into exploration ships, medical vessels, or refugee transports. You want to convert our warships into humanitarian vessels? We want to offer your people a choice. The Confederation can continue trying to expand through force, in which case you'll find that force increasingly ineffective. Or you can work with us to solve the real problems facing galactic civilization, such as the Devourers, for starters. Zekthar felt his blood chill. What do you know about the Devourers? We know they're coming. Our deep space monitors detected their advanced scouts 18 months ago. The main fleet will reach the Outer Rim colonies in approximately 16 months. That's impossible. Our best long-range sensors show no sign of Devourer activity. Captain Vasquez smiled sadly. Ambassador, your sensors are designed to detect normal matter and energy. The Devourers stopped being normal a very long time ago. The display changed again, showing something that made Zekthar's worst nightmares seem pleasant. Ships that looked like they were made of crystallized hunger, feeding on the quantum foam that underlied reality itself. We estimate the Devourer fleet at approximately 50,000 vessels, each one capable of consuming a star system in a matter of days. Your Confederation's current strategy of running away and hoping they lose interest is inadequate. And you think you can stop them? We think we can save the civilizations they're planning to devour. Whether we stop the Devourers permanently depends on whether the galaxy is willing to work together. Zekthar stared at the images of approaching doom. What are you proposing? A new kind of galactic organization, not based on protection taxes and forced submission, but on voluntary cooperation between equal species. Think of it as the Confederation's better-adjusted younger sibling. And if we refuse, Captain Vasquez shrugged, then we save who we can and deal with the Devourers ourselves. But, Ambassador, this is a problem too big for any one species to handle alone. Even us. The Confederation Council chamber had never seen anything like it. For the first time in 5,000 years, representatives from every member species were present simultaneously. The emergency session had been called after Ambassador Zekthar's report about the approaching Devourers, but the mood was anything but unified. High Chancellor Mordeth stood before the assembled delegates, his ancient features grave with the weight of impossible decisions. Fellow counselors, we face a choice that will determine the fate of our civilization. The humans have provided detailed evidence of an approaching Devourer fleet. Evidence our own scientists have now confirmed. Angry voices erupted from across the chamber. Counselor Vexta of the Corvani slammed his fist on his desk. You expect us to believe that a primitive species detected threats our advanced sensors missed? The evidence is clear, Mordeth replied. The Devourers have evolved beyond our ability to detect them using conventional methods. They now feed directly on quantum fields, making them nearly invisible to our instruments. Even if this is true, declared Counselor Yilseth of the Trader Union, why should we trust these humans? They humiliated our fleet and refused to accept proper governance. Ambassador Zekthar stood slowly. Because they didn't destroy our fleet when they could have. Because they rescued our crews and treated them with kindness. Because they offered partnership instead of demanding submission. Partnership with primitives, Vexta snarled. It's unthinkable. Counselor Vexta, Zekthar said quietly, I've seen their technology. I've witnessed capabilities that our greatest scientists insist are impossible. These humans are not primitives. They may be the most advanced species in the galaxy. The chamber fell silent. Mordeth activated the main display, showing the same. Devourer fleet projections that Captain Vasquez had shared. 50,000 vessels of crystallized hunger, feeding on the fabric of space itself. Our military advisors estimate that our combined fleet could destroy perhaps a dozen Devourer ships. Before being consumed, Mordeth said. The humans claim they can save our threatened colonies and possibly eliminate the Devourer threat permanently. Claims, muttered Yilseth. Easy words from a species that's never faced the Devourers. Actually, a new voice said, we have. Every head in the chamber turned to see a figure materializing in the center of the room. Captain Elena Vasquez stood there in her simple blue uniform, having somehow appeared in the most secure facility in Confederation space. How did you get in here? Mordeth demanded, his security team reaching for weapons that suddenly wouldn't function. The same way we've been monitoring your communications for decades, Vasquez replied calmly. Quantum consciousness manipulation makes most security measures irrelevant. This is an outrage, Vexta shouted. You invade our most sacred chamber. Counselor. Vexta, isn't it? Captain Vasquez looked directly at the massive alien warrior. Former Admiral of the 7th Fleet, veteran of the Corvan Independence War, grandfather of 12, and secretly terrified that your people will be the first consumed when the Devourers arrive. Vexita's face went pale. How do you know that? Because we've been preparing for this conversation much longer than you realize. Counselors, you're debating whether to trust humanity based on incomplete information. Let me fill in the gaps. The captain gestured, and the chamber's displays came alive with images none of them had ever seen. Deep space monitoring stations, built into asteroids, quantum sensors that could detect Devourer scouts across galactic distances, and most shocking of all, records of previous encounters. 17 years ago, a single Devourer scout entered our solar system, Vasquez explained. It was only there for 6 hours, but in that time it consumed 3 of Jupiter's moons and began feeding on the planet's magnetic field. What happened to it? Mordeth asked quietly. We killed it. It was the first time anyone had successfully destroyed a Devourer vessel, and it taught us everything we needed to know about their weaknesses. Counselor Yilseth leaned forward. Weaknesses? The Devourers have no weaknesses. They have one critical vulnerability, Vasquez said. They've evolved beyond individual consciousness. Each Devourer ship is part of a collective mind spread. Across their entire fleet, they're incredibly powerful, but they think as a single entity. How is that a weakness? Captain Vasquez smiled. Because humans are really good at being unpredictable. The display changed to show technical specifications that made every alien scientist in the chamber gasp. Ships designed not for direct combat, but for quantum consciousness warfare. Vessels that could project human unpredictability and individual thinking across vast distances. The Devourers can't adapt to truly random tactics because they're collective. Consciousness always seeks optimal solutions, but humans specialize in suboptimal solutions that somehow work anyway. You're saying you can defeat the Devourers through chaos? Mordeth asked. We're saying we can save your people while the Devourers are trying to figure out why our tactics don't make logical sense. Vexta stood up, his warrior's instincts finally overcoming his pride. Captain, what do you need from us? Evacuation coordination, Vasquez replied immediately. We can protect inhabited systems during Devourer attacks, but we'll need your help moving civilian populations to safety. Your logistics networks are far better established than ours. And after the evacuations? After we've saved everyone we teach the Devourers why consuming species with quantum consciousness manipulation was a very poor choice. Yilseth was studying the technical specifications with growing awe. Captain, these designs, some of this technology appears to be based on Confederation principles, but advanced far beyond our current capabilities. We've had 40 years to study and improve on your technology, but more importantly, we approached it from a completely different philosophical direction. Meaning, you built weapons of war. We built tools of protection. The quantum consciousness amplifiers in our ships don't just project destructive force. They can project healing, growth, even evolution itself. Mordeth was beginning to understand. You're not just offering to save us from the Devourers. You're offering to help us become something better. High Chancellor, humanity learned something important during our development. Species that survive long-term aren't the strongest or the smartest. They're the ones that learn to work together despite their differences. The captain looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives from dozens of species. The Devourers represent what happens when a species becomes perfectly unified. They lose the creativity and adaptability that comes from individual thinking. The Confederation represents the opposite extreme. So much individual thinking that cooperation becomes impossible. What do you propose instead? Asked Mordeth. Unity without uniformity. Cooperation without subjugation. A galactic community, where every species contributes their unique strengths while maintaining their individual identity. Vexta stepped forward. Captain, if we agree to this partnership, what guarantees do we have that humanity won't simply become new conquerors? Vasquez considered the question seriously. None, Counselor. You'll have to trust us, just as we're trusting you. But I can tell you this, humans have never been good at ruling other people, even our own. We're much better at protecting people and then letting them make their own choices. Even if those choices are wrong? Especially then. The right to make wrong choices is what separates free beings from slaves. The chamber was quiet for a long moment. Finally, Mordeth spoke. Captain, if we agree to this partnership, when do we begin? We already have. 3 hours ago, the first Devourer scouts crossed into Confederation space. They're currently approaching the Outer Rim colonies. Alarms began wailing throughout the chamber as the Confederation's long-range sensors finally detected what human technology had seen weeks earlier. How long do we have? Yilseth asked urgently. The main fleet will arrive in 72 hours. But don't worry, the Terran Resolve and her sister ships are already in position. Sister ships? Mordeth's eyes widened. Captain Vasquez smiled. High Chancellor, did you think we'd build just one? Humanity has been busy these past 40 years. Through the chamber's great windows, they could see new stars appearing in the sky. Not stars at all, but human ships materializing throughout Confederation space, taking defensive positions around every inhabited world. Ladies, gentlemen, and others, Captain Vasquez said formally, welcome to the Galactic Protection Alliance. We have work to do. As the emergency evacuation began and the greatest battle in galactic history approached, one thing became clear to every species involved. The age of conquest was ending. The age of cooperation had begun. And at the center of it all, humanity stood ready to prove that sometimes the best way to win a war is to save everyone you can, even your former enemies. The Devourers were about to learn why that approach had always been humanity's greatest strength.